Are you confused about who to trust for skincare advice when everyone on social media seems to be an expert? From board certified physicians with questionable credentials to influencers promoting dangerous misinformation about sunscreen, it is harder than ever to know what's legitimate. I'm giving you the tools today on this episode to spot the real experts from the pretenders. And on this week's episode of the podcast, I am so excited to have my colleague, Dr. Rey Hamidi, joining me. She is a dermatologist in Southern California, and she is also the creator of Skin Smart, which is her signature online course to help women around the world get smart about their skincare and feel good in their skin, which totally resonates with me if you know me or watch any of my content. She also even has a private online community to really help empower women in their skin journey. I love that so much. So, if you are wondering, how can I navigate social media skincare advice without falling for misinformation that could harm my skin or waste my money? This episode is for you, friend. Dr. Ray, thank you so much for joining me. I have been super excited to talk to you because I've been seeing what you've been doing. I've been getting your emails, hearing about your course that you've been working on, and I'm so glad to have you, in real life, as the kids say.
Thank you. It is so good to be here. I'm like super excited to talk social media skincare today. It's something I'm super passionate about.
Absolutely. I was actually just talking with someone about why it's important for doctors to have personal brands and how really I think it is important for doctors to be on social media because when we're not there, when we're sort of like stuck in our ivory towers or behind our clinic walls, A, we don't reach as many people. And secondly, this is where people get their information, right? Like this is where they do their research. This is where they find out if something is good or bad. And so if we're not as doctors on social media to help give some of this information, then as you know, right, bad information can be really dispelled widely. So I would just love to get your thoughts on medical education on social media. Like, is there a role for it? And because we're both on there.
Yes, yes, for sure. So 100% I think there is. It's not all doom and gloom when it comes to social media skincare, right? I think that one of the major benefits is that people are, of course, more informed these days, right? That means that they are coming in to see us in the office with better questions and they kind of know what to ask and they are actually better able to advocate for themselves too in the office, right? So that's great. And yeah, there's just a lot of access to not just kind of lay people giving advice, but also dermatologists. And I think it is very, like you mentioned, important for us to be online, kind of doing the good work of providing that kind of evidence-based, science-based, expertise-based advice. I will say sometimes it's a little difficult for people to know what someone's true credentials are. What are they a true expert? What kind of expertise do they have in this topic that they're talking about? So sometimes that can get a bit muddled. But when you see that, label board certified dermatologist, I feel at least a baseline that gives a little bit more of kind of relief and credibility to what that person is saying. Yeah.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, though, with confusion with credentialing. And I think some people use this to their advantage, right? Like they purposely try to say, I'm a board certified physician or board certified whatever that doesn't even have a board certification. So it can get tricky. I mean, I'm always like, wait, what do they do? Like, where is that coming from? But I'm a physician, right? So I kind of know how to dig through that. You see a lot of letters after someone's name. You're like, I don't know. And so yeah, it can get, I get it. It can get really confusing on who's really an expert. What does it take to really be an expert? But hands down, a board certified dermatologist, period, is the expert in skin, right? That's what we go to medical school for. We learn about the whole human body and then we subspecialize in skin.
Yeah, that's all we do all day, every day. We're looking at skin, we're talking about skin, we're thinking about skin, we're studying skin, so that's what we do. And yeah, I am happy that I really have yet to see that term used, a board certified dermatologist for somebody who's not a dermatologist. But yeah, board certified physician, I would say that's kind of a red flag. Board certified physician, what kind of physician exactly? And, did they just kind of complete medical school and not doing any further training or, it's hard to know. So some red flags out there too.
Yeah, I mean, I think when people use that, they're board certified in something totally unrelated, and they are trying to kinda cover that up, honestly, is my thought when I see that. And not to say, like, I love my esthetician colleagues, I think they work wonderfully with dermatologists. It's like, peanut butter and jelly, and they're so into skincare and things like that. So it's not to say that other people don't have roles and value with taking care of skin, right? But I get frustrated, as I'm sure you do too, because I feel like certain companies and people are taking advantage of capitalizing. There we go. Thank you. You're obviously much younger. Capitalizing on insecurities that we have, especially as we get older, or not even as we get older, right now with social media and filters. Like my son thinks pores are unnatural. He thinks I have horrifying skin because I have pores and I have a scar. And I'm like, that's normal, that he doesn't get it because he's a kid and he just sees these filtered images. So I do think these people are capitalizing on our insecurities, on our feeling unworthy, feeling ugly. We're comparing ourselves not just to people around the world, we're comparing ourselves to people that don't even exist, like non-humans, and we're trying to hold ourselves up to that standard. And that's what really frustrates me on social media is when I see people just trying to take advantage, saying, "Oh, buy this. This causes cancer, so buy my product. It doesn't. Buy all these things. You got to do all these devices and all these habits to get good skin." And that frustrates me because A, it's not true, and they're just basically stealing people's money.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that as much good has come out of it, of course, I think one of the major issues with social media skincare exploding over the last several years is just the sheer degree of misinformation out there. It's not just conflicting, but a lot of it is actually not true. It is, at best, it's inaccurate. At worst, it's deceiving.
Or dangerous, right? Like saying sunscreen causes cancer is absolutely dangerous.
Yeah, I'm sure you see that. I know that personally, I have, every single new patient I see, and especially during skin cancer screenings, but almost every patient I ask about their sunscreen use. And every week I get a handful that say, I don't use it because I've heard it's not good for you. Or sometimes they'll use the word toxic. And so then sometimes they're open to hearing my perspective. Other times they've already made up their mind and they're not really hearing it. And of course, currently, I would say that's one of the major, examples of this misinformation. And the thing is that anybody can say anything online, right? And when you hear it enough, sometimes it's like you can be a very astute, well educated person and start to think, is there something to this? And so, yeah, and it's important that we're on there too, kind of fighting the good fight of, informing people because, in fact, of course, there's never been a case of sunscreen toxicity documented ever in all of human history. There are no diseases linked to excessive use of sunscreen, right? So these very loud, very popular voices online are talking about sunscreen like it's the plague and how it's going to cause cancer and, liver disease and kidney disease and all the things. And again, playing on people's fears or just for whatever reason, have this kind of narrative. Yeah.
Totally. And you're in California, where I feel like it's even harder to convince people, right? But why do you think all this why is there so much mistrust, right? I feel like we're having a crisis too in healthcare. I mean, we're having a crisis in healthcare. If you work in healthcare, you're aware. If you've ever used healthcare, you're aware. And it's super challenging. But I do feel part of the issue is that as physicians, we've kind of held back. We always want the data. We always want to make sure the research is just right and randomized controlled trials. And so sometimes we're slow, right, to pick up and innovate. And meanwhile, I feel like these other loud voices have kind of filled in. And so we're now having to sort of like climb back and sort of put our voice out there. But I do think a lot of it is this frustration with healthcare, and people lump doctors as a part of it because we work in healthcare, but I think people don't fully realize how we are as frustrated as anyone. But that, again, that's a whole nother podcast, right? But I do feel like there's this sort of like trust crisis really with and being an expert is no longer really enough to convince people that you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, we could talk all day about that. And a lot of it does just have to do with, I guess, our healthcare system. At least we can speak for the United States, right? Where maybe sometimes people feel like they're not getting the experience they want at the doctor's office. And so it's easier for people to fill that void online, right? And think about it, the easy access, right? All you have to do is open your phone and it's right there. So it's just so easy to access that of course it's a natural to look online for your information. When you're curious about something, where do you go? You go to Google, right? So
Or not even Google anymore, right? It's like go to social media, go to YouTube, go to AI. I actually have a funny story. My business partner is older. He's not on TikTok, but we had a patient and he asked the patient, "How did you find me?" And the patient's like, "Oh, you were on TikTok." He's like, "No, I'm not." He's like, yeah, you were." So, even when you're not on these necessarily yourself, like people are posting about you or saying things. And sometimes that's good and can lead to patients wanting to come see you. And sometimes that isn't. But yeah, it's like this is where people get their information.
right. And so I think for that reason, it's important to have a really, really healthy dose of skepticism when you are looking online for information. And it's not just something we're making up, honestly. There have been studies on this looking at I'm speaking specifically about skincare now on social media. A number of them, for example, there was one in dermatologic therapy, I think it was like 2021, and it was on social media skincare, and they found that over half of the skincare information online was not based on skin science, basically, and it just kind of went completely antithetical to what, clinical practice shows us. And so, again, over half. So, that was just one study, and again, representative of what the other studies have shown, and that extends to advertising as well. So another like, the number that is sticking out to me was a study that found that 80% of advertising or skincare product advertising online was misleading or inaccurate, and only 18% was found to be, like, acceptable. And so, again, I see it on my feed all the time, and it is very frustrating. It is a huge reason why I started SkinSmart, actually, but I see it on my feed every day, the skincare product advertisements that show these, like, amazing, amazing before and afters, right? From this miracle cream, and when you look a little closer, you might see that, they're done in completely different lighting, maybe the facial expression's different, maybe it's from a different angle, or it's filtered, or it's just completely, like, photoshopped, and kid you not, I've seen many instances of companies using these stock photos, these, like, poor woman that's from this stock photo page that I see her picture all over these different skincare advertisements. She's the same woman using, like, 5 different skincare company ads as the before and after, obviously photoshopped, and by the way, you look underneath and there's, like, a name, there's a check verified purchase, there's a 5-star review, glowing review, so it's really hard to know these days, and sometimes you can kinda tell, "Oh, yeah, that's Photoshop." Other times you can't, it's really hard. So, it's hard to know, like, is this review legit? So that's why I also tell people just, looking at product reviews isn't gonna give you the full story, so just kind of a healthy dose of skepticism there.
It is crazy. I have tweens and they're super into skincare. Like, they are not seeing that for me, right? But if there's, like, a new trend, they are doing it. Like, they've been putting their faces in ice water in the morning. Yeah, that's a new one, which fine. You wanna put your face in ice water, like, that's harmless. And, I don't let them buy actives and things like that, but I do let them pick out, like, a fun sunscreen that they wanna use. But then my son one night before he went to bed, he was, in the bathroom layering his skincare. And I was like, "Gosh, that took a while. What were you doing in there?" And he was telling me, and I said, "Oh, tell me about the products you were using and the order." And he had about 7 products, and then he started telling me the order, and one of the first things he put on was Aquaphor, and I was like, "Well, then just stop, because everything else you put on didn't even reach your skin. It's like sitting on the Aquaphor." So, yeah, it's funny because even tweens who don't even have phones, don't have social media, they're still getting this. So you had talked about, Skin Smart, that is your program. Like, what are some things you'd recommend for your patients or someone listening who is like, if it's hard for you, Dr. Ray, how are we supposed to figure out fact from fiction when you're scrolling?
That's a good one. I mean, I think, yeah, the first tip I would say is like, I would kind of tune out as much as possible. But here's what I would say. The best route, I think, is to find maybe like one or two board certified dermatologists that you trust and listen to them, because first thing is, okay, so if you have a problem, a skin problem, a health problem in general, do you go to 10 different doctors and get, 10 different consultations? No, because what does that do? That leads to overwhelm and confusion. And we call it the art of medicine for a reason. And that applies to skin and dermatology and skincare as well. So you might have, different dermatologists even that approach skincare a little bit differently. So when you're listening to the 10 different voices coming across your feed, it does lead to overwhelm and confusion, right? So pick one or two that you love and just listen to what they say. And if I could give another piece of advice, it would be to go for kind of the longer form content, like the YouTube and the podcast, like the Skin Reel.
There you go.
Yeah, right? Shameless plug. But because it is really easy to get lost and kind of just a lack of nuance and a lack of context when we're looking at these 30-second, 60-second sound bites on Instagram and TikTok, right? So at least when you're going for the longer form content, you're getting a little bit more kind of deeper information, a bit more context and nuance. And so I think that's where a lot of times people run into problems, like your son who's putting the Aquaphor on, right? So first thing, it's hard to, piece together this information in a meaningful way that's actually going to do well for your skin when you are looking at 30-second down bites and like random product recommendations, right? So yeah, and then it's easy to just kind of be distracted by because the algorithm knows that you're following these dermatologists. So it's throwing like other skin influencers on your feed, etc. And although they can be fun to listen to and watch and see, and I kind of sometimes find it enjoyable for entertainment too, don't take your advice from them necessarily. So that's what I would say might be a good approach.
I love that. I have what's called the AXE formula that I recommend, like to eliminating a lot of this noise, right? Like canceling out the noise because there's so much noise. So I love that. Like find someone or a couple people you resonate with and have those be like your go-to people. Like, okay, what does Dr. Ray say about this? What does Dr. Mina think about that? Someone you trust that you like their vibe, right? Because not everyone, there's different strokes for different folks, right? Yeah, find someone who you like their vibe, you like sort of the information that they have. I do this with like the menopause experts out there, right? Like there are a couple that I follow who I just think have really solid, good information. Yeah, and I think just trying to put a little bit of blinders on and not falling into that shiny object syndrome or trap, right? Which is hard because I'll go to conferences too, and I'm like, oh, I need that. I need that. Oh, why did I recommend this? I need that. There's always something new coming out, but it doesn't mean you need to get it. And I feel like clean beauty, right, is such a buzzword. It's such a marketing term that's used. And I think really like clean beauty should be used less. That's really clean beauty is stop buying so much and stop wasting so much and just save your time and your energy. So I think that's great advice to just follow a few people, stick to the long form content. And this doesn't mean like a 3 hour, podcast necessarily, where they actually like delve through the science of things or maybe some research. So if you've been to your dermatologist and they take insurance, like we get it. There's probably a long wait to see them. There's a wait in the waiting room. It's a short visit. Not a lot of time to talk about preventative care, longevity, regenerative care, all these things that I love as a 45-year-old. And so I get it. Like you maybe are gonna leave feeling like, oh, I didn't really get all my questions answered. I kind of went in with one problem, but I didn't really get that sort of preventative care that I wanted. So I love how you are trying to tackle this outside the clinic walls. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So Skin Smart is my first product that I put out there digitally. It's a course. And yeah, it came about, we talked a little bit about it already, but partially because I was seeing all of this, like what you call shiny object syndrome. That's exactly how I describe it as well, interestingly, where, people are hopping from product to product to product and not really having a strategy for their skin. And not getting the results that they want for that reason, right? And also kind of not knowing who to trust. There's just an overload of information online. So, and I 100% very much respect dermatologists online. Of course, we've been talking about that, who are doing the good work of educating the public, et cetera. But I thought for me, from my place was, what was really calling to me was to have people have a place where they could go to that's kind of more focused. It's a bit more structured. It teaches them a bit of a strategy and a sort of a holistic approach to taking care of their skin. And by holistic, I don't mean like eat more broccoli and your wrinkles will go away.
I kinda say that.
Yeah, well, okay, specifically, I mean, yeah,
You're not getting crystals out and.
no, what I mean is, like, being holistic, but in a kind of a realistic way. I do think and that is a major part of it, is part of my strategy, I have a name for it called the SMART method, but is how we're treating our skin internally, how we're treating our body, because, of course, our skin is an organ, it is connected to all our other systems, it is, fed by the blood in our bloodstream, so what we put in our body is 100% gonna affect our skin. I guess what I mean is, like, the exaggerative declaration of, like, eating well is gonna reverse your wrinkles or something like that. No.
I get it.
Yeah. 100% supports your skin, right? Yeah, the strategy I wanted people to have a strategy, basically, and so that starts with, I think, what's really important that I think is overlooked sometimes is defining for yourself what your goals are for your skin, because it's not gonna be the same for everybody, right? So you might have, like, Sally and Lucy, and they're both 45, right? But Sally, her goal for her skin is to perpetually look 10 years younger than she is, okay? Lucy, her goal is she just wants to kinda maintain. She doesn't wanna ever look older than she is. She doesn't wanna, like, look like her mother, at the age that she is now. So those 2 people, all else being equal, are gonna need to do different things to achieve that goal. So if you think of it like begin with the end in mind, what is your goal? Define that for yourself, and who do you need to be? What do you need to do right now to kind of achieve that? So that's the first part of it, is defining your goals. And then 2 is I find that maybe you do as well. People kind of hyper focus on the skincare routine, right? It's all about the product. Retinol should I be using? Am I using the right one? Should I be using vitamin C? Yeah, what topicals? It's all about the routine, and if we really wanna age in a way that really feels good and achieve our goals for our skin, oftentimes we need to pull from the other tools in our toolbox. I call them the tools, and in my mind, there are 4 of them. So the first one is what I call skincare fundamentals, which is just the basics, like knowing your skin type, knowing what kind of basic products to use for your skin type, cleanser, moisturizer, sunscreen, that are gonna set, like, a really nice solid calm foundation, right? And that's gonna set the stage for everything else you do for your skin and to your skin and what you're putting on, right? That's number 1. I find people skip that step sometimes. They just kinda, like, go straight to the actives and the retinol, and they haven't even thought about what kind of cleanser they're using.
And the procedures, right?
Yeah, and so, yeah, the procedures is another one where I think that sometimes people are, like, either procedures or the products, but really you're gonna get the best outcome from both. Yeah, it's the skincare fundamentals, and then the second part is the actives. Of course, they're important, right? We have very well proven ingredients and products that science tells us are gonna help us look better for longer. Okay, so yeah, absolutely part of the pieces of the puzzle. And then the third one is that holistic approach. Those, holistic skin health habits. It's nutrition, it's sleep, it's stress, and nervous system regulation, which is kind of a hot topic these days, but it's important. And gut health too, which I think is kind of a buzzword true these days, but we are for sure finding out how important that is in, again, affecting all of our systems and how we age, including our skin. That all factors in. But again, people sometimes ignore that. Like they're using like the most amazing products, but their sleep is junk and they're like eating junk and and they're never going to see the results that they want when that's the case, right? And then yeah, the fourth piece is those professional treatments, which I find honestly are oftentimes underestimated the importance because people are placing so much value and importance on the products, basically expecting products to do something that they can't. And you and I know as dermatologists how easy or how hard I should say it is, for example, to reverse sagging or to like fix really deep folds or, improve really deep wrinkles, et cetera, things like that, bags under the eyes. And because of what people are seeing on their feed every day, again, to no fault of their own, it's on their feed from the second they open their app to the time they close it, they are seeing these, like, really unrealistic results, and so then they have that expectation for themselves as well. And so, yeah, part of, my goal was to, first of all, show people what is really science-based. Science is truth, right? So it tells us what works. Let's look to science. These are like the foundational principles I go by. Let's look to science and evidence. Number one. Number two, let's apply it to you, your skin, your goals, your lifestyle, your values, things like that. And then just kind of ditch all the rest, the fluff, the fluff. We don't need that. It's a distractor. It works against us. So those are kind of the foundational principles. And then, yeah, so which tools from our toolbox do we need to pull from? For most people, it's going to be all of them. And that's going to give you the best outcome. When you pull from all those tools, like it's almost impossible to not love your skin, right?
That was beautiful. I mean, it resonates so much with what I believe as well that, and I say like skincare is whole body care, right? You cannot just treat your body like garbage, not exercise, not sleep, drink a ton of alcohol, smoke, tan, and then think, well, I'm going to buy this $200 vitamin C serum and it's going to like make all my problems go away. So I think I totally am with you. Like too often we're too hyper focused on the topicals or external things and not enough on that more holistic approach. Also mindset, right? Like they've done studies to show people who think positively about aging live longer and healthier. And I know you probably see this. Like you see these women like our age coming in and they're like, oh, another birthday, or they're so critical of themselves and they're objectively gorgeous and they can't see it because they can only see that one little scar or line that they have, and they become so hyper fixated on that, and they end up, like, going the opposite way to bizarre looking, right? And I love that you are offering this as a course because here's the reality, like, it is really I'm gonna say it, like, impossible to get this depth of content in an insurance-based practice. That is just the, like, reality of where we are, and so I think that's why, like, dermatologists like you are seeking out other avenues for people to get this information. I know that I'm opening a out-of-network practice where I can really take the time to delve into these because I believe so passionately that this is so important, and I can't cover this in a 15-minute visit. I can give a lot of this information away for free, like you do on YouTube and podcasts, but to really like sit with someone and I love how you talked about a strategy because that's exactly what it is. Like we have strategies in life, but do you have a strategy for your skin? Because things are going to change. And I do find when people just like price shop and they bounce around and, oh, my bestie went here and my boyfriend recommended this. And, it looks piecemeal. It doesn't look cohesive. And I do think like for your best skin, no matter what age, sort of having that plan and focusing on the things you mentioned are so key.
Yeah. My goal is to have people look at aging in a different way, and partly because they feel good about how, when you look good, you feel good, right? Not to hyper focus on the wrinkle here and there and that, but you can still have the wrinkles and still feel amazing because you're taking really good care of yourself, you're taking good care of your skin. You're going to age in a way that feels good because you're doing the things, you have the plan, you have the strategy. And so I think that the biggest shift for even me personally has been viewing aging in a different way, which, hey, if that can make me live longer too, right?
Right, longer, healthier, right? Like, this whole concept of lifespan, right? Like, I don't wanna live long, but a vegetable or not a healthful life, right? So, I do love that there's this momentum for longevity and regeneration and, like, using our body and taking care of our bodies for maximum health, and we're realizing, like, that's really, like, the optimal glow up, right? Is doing all of that, not that one thing of Botox or filler, which has its role, but that misses the big picture. This has been so fun talking. I love that we are on like the same wavelength with everything. I think it's so exciting. I love seeing dermatologists who are putting this kind of information out there. And I definitely feel like this is where things are going. I know people are going to want to find you. They're going to want to learn about your course. Like, where's the best way for someone to connect with you?
For sure, yeah. So, probably Instagram is the best place right now. I'm trying to get into TikTok a little bit more. I'm very sporadic on TikTok. I'm gonna try to do better, but Instagram is skinsmart underscore with underscore Dr. Ray. So all underscores between the letters or between the words skinsmart with Dr. Ray. And that's probably the best place to find me. And if you want to work with me, you can just click on the work with me link in there. So we have the Skin Smart course. And then my newest program is Radiant by Design, which I love because I think it's speaking to what a lot of people want, which is beyond the information and that kind of course, self-paced course format. It's getting me in there. It's getting me involved and giving you like a personalized blueprint plan. So that's there as well. And yeah, that's the best place to reach me, really, I would say.
Awesome. And I think, was there a code people can use?
Yeah. So I have something called the Glow Up Essentials, which is like those skincare fundamentals that I was talking about. It is helping you with that in terms of determining your skin type, knowing what kind of cleanser, moisturizer, and sunscreen to use, and really diving deep on those topics for you so you can really set that healthy foundation first. So that's the Glow Up Essentials. And yeah, it's free for your listeners, and they can use the code SkinReal and just one word, and then you'll put the link in the show notes. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm going to check that out. So much fun talking with you, and I wish you much success, and your patients, your clients, they're lucky to have you, and I really appreciate you being here, and for everyone listening or watching, I will see you next week.